Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mike Friedman, and this is our pilot program of Mike Friedman on the Left. Our consensus and of this program will be views of liberal, progressive attitudes of not only people, but of different news events that are happening. Tonight, it gives us a great deal of pleasure to introduce a young lady who I met last year, and we've been close ever since. As a matter of fact, she invited me to join the board of Promise House, and I'd like to introduce Lilian Briggs.
Hello. I don't know what to say. I'm Lilian, and I am the executive director and co-founder with Courtney Billion of the Promise House Project.
Unfortunately, Courtney couldn't make it tonight with us, and from some prior engagements, but why don't you fill us in exactly what the narrative of Promise House is?
Promise House Project is an effort to, one, not only house young people, 14 to 24, who are experiencing homelessness and in general need at all, but to provide safe space as well. It's also, we're in the coalition building efforts of our strategic plan, where we've just instituted the Youth Empowerment and Engagement Coalition, which we have set upon ourselves with community stakeholders to create a coordinated community response to preventing and ending youth homelessness. And we've only met twice, but we've got some great footwork going on and great collaborative energy. We're going to be doing our an independent point in time homeless youth count. There's a lot going on, so it's just.
Well, I think the most interesting thing, well, not interesting, it's just fabulous, is that so many of our elected leaders are coming on board and are so thrilled with this.
Yes. It has been one of our goals was to make sure that Toledo's leadership and Lucas County's leadership was fully aware of what we were trying to do. We've made them pretty much all aware of where we are. Play by play, we get calls a lot. I see people out in public and they're like, "What's going on with Promise House?" And like, we're doing a lot. Like tonight we have the Zoo teens coming to, we have an office full of donations at the Collingwood Art Center that they're going to help organize and put into totes for us. And it's just, there's always something going on. So when people ask me, there's something new usually.
When do you anticipate the house to be open?
We're actually, Promise House, we're going to be opening up in stages. So we're hoping that the drop-in center, which will serve more of like the dignified service things that we'll be doing, like hot showers, hot meals, having a computer lab, etc. That will be open by mid to end July. And then we're hoping that 2 to 3 months after that, then we'll open up our 15-bed system on the second floor.
Are you at liberty over the air to tell the folks where the house is going to be located?
The house is going to be located in the Old West End, which we chose the Old West End because most of us live here who are involved with Promise House. And then it's also historically a neighborhood that is accepting, affirming, and loving, especially if you're different. And so, of course, we chose the Old West End, but we'll be on Collingwood by Scott High School. And so that's all we're saying about it right now.
Okay, that's great. And I think Scott is my alma mater, so
yes.
And I know when we toured the building, I just looked in amazement to sit on that porch and look across the street and see Scott High School.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience for me to graduate from there, and so many of my classmates are involved in politics in Toledo, yes. So that even makes it better.
Yes.
So is the Promise House spearheaded for LGBT community, or will they be accepting everybody?
We have always been and will always be a no youth left behind mission of advocacy as an organization. We, of course, recognize that the LGBTQIA community experiences disparities at a different rate than their heterosexual counterparts. So we have specific outreach goals and mechanisms in place that we will ensure that, all people are welcome at Promise House. But we, again, we're a No Youth Left Behind mission
A big
policy.
umbrella.
A big umbrella of love and people who care and recognize that all young people are deserving of dignity, respect, and a warm bed.
That's what I can't understand. Maybe you can enlighten our listeners to this. But how can a mother and father, or either one, a mother, a father, or both, can throw their child out in the street because they happen to be different than they are?
It's astounding to me, actually. I cannot understand how anybody could say that they ever loved their child, that if because their child's gay or transgender or lesbian or bisexual or somewhere within the spectrum of this beautiful community, that they, your love doesn't stop. Because if your love can stop just because your child's different, then I would have to challenge that your meaning or what you call love is not love, and it never was. It's astounding that a young person can be thrown away.
Well, that's the wonderful thing about Promise House, is that no child will be left behind. I think it's great.
Because we're also working with a lot of advocacy networks. We are partnered with Lucas County Children's Services and many other organizations, the Jewish Community Federations, Food for Thought, Equality Toledo, Holiday of Heart, Charity Gala, trying to do this huge thing that the biggest point that we've tried to make is to try to really show people why they should give a damn about this. Because, a lot of people, it's out of sight, out of mind. So if you don't directly see or work with this population, a lot of people tend to assume that it doesn't exist, which is very far from the truth. We have a very large homeless youth population. And
Here in Toledo.
In Toledo. And it's also, we call homeless youth, but it's also kids, that includes kids that are couch surfing. That includes kids that are bouncing from home, from home to home, from foster care to foster care family. Those kids they're not housing secure. And that's a shame.
Now, to be in foster care, they have to accept the fact that the child is either no.
They don't have to accept anything. Most foster care families, you just get assigned a child. It has nothing to do with you accepting anything.
Okay, because I know that some people are wondering about that.
Oh, no, that's one of the problems. There are sometimes, and Robin Reese has tried really, really hard. She's doing a lot of great work. She recognizes the issues. I have full faith in her and her leadership and her vision of changing the relationship LCCS has.
Well, in the year that I've known you, you seem very perceptive. I mean, you can just size somebody up just by talking with them for maybe 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Especially when you do, we do a lot of street work and street ministry and street advocacy. And you get to learn and to, summate people within a couple minutes.
Body language.
Things like that, the things they say, of course. There's always, giving somebody a second chance. Robin Reese is one of those people that first time I met her, I knew that she was legitimate, etc. She's really trying. But that's the thing. So we have some people, some young people who run away from foster care families because not every foster care family is in it for the right reasons. Not because they, I'm not saying all, but there are some who have
Look at the bottom line.
They look at the bottom line of the stipend that they get and don't really care for the child other than what they were legally required to. And some kids run away from that. There are, it's one of those things where we're having the conversation and, they're recognizing that it's probably a bad idea to place an LGBT child with an evangelical minister.
That's very well put.
It's probably going to be a bad scenario for that child. I'm not broad brushing evangelical ministers, but so far, all I can say is of evangelical ministry is that it's not accepting. From the examples we've been given. But yeah, this is, so Promise House is we've done this whole huge thing. A lot of people have questioned the sustainability. Well, we are a sustainable service and Advocacy and Action is our subtitle, because we've hit it from all fronts. We've had the conversations about foster care. We've had the conversations about placement, about emancipation. We're looking at creating system safety nets and helping community organizations rally their resources to ensure.
Excuse me, but when you talk about resources, will there be on-site psychologists and?
Yes, that's our goal, is to have on-site case management, as well as to work with probably the ZEF Center and Rescue, and whomever. We're willing to work with anybody as long as they have the best interest of the clients that we serve.
Well, the JCC also has the Jewish Family Service.
Yes, and they're helping us out with mentorship programs, doctors, dentists when we open. But we're also, in terms of resources, going to have hot showers, hot meals, programming, stuff to engage young people who need to be engaged, especially keep them occupied with stuff that's fun, but also stuff that's meaningful.
Busy hands are healthy hands.
Busy hands are healthy hands, but it's also working within the communities that we serve to make sure that we're having the conversations. But besides that, a lot of dignity items like socks, underwear, hygiene will be available on site, as well as we're hoping that, of course, for the clients that we serve, the young people that we will have the blessing to serve, to give them backpacks for school if they need them, etc., school supplies, school clothes. We're looking, we're already forethinking that, we might have some kids that go to one of the TPS schools or a charter school that has to have a uniform. How do we make sure we have uniforms on site in case we have a child that we're serving or a young person that we're serving that needs a new uniform, etc. We're just trying to think about the little things that make life better when you're struggling.
Do you think you'll be able to get into the United Appeal?
The what?
The United Way.
Oh, possibly one day. Like we're really a grassroots organization that has done a lot of it. We've been doing street to street. Like, so hey, here at Promise House, this is who we are. And smaller events, and really focused on how the message has come across, and the conversations that we're having we've made sure that they've been the right ones.
Let's talk about Facebook. Don't you have a
yes.
Why don't you tell our listeners about Facebook and how you're...
We're the Promise House Project on Facebook. You can like us. You can talk. Leave us a message if you want. You can post stuff that may be helpful. You can find resources. We also have a website, phptoledo.org. We have a great resource section of local resources that have been vetted. And we all know that they're okay people.
Well, your selection of board members, I think, is fantastic. I mean, you have them from all walks of life on the board.
Yeah.
2 attorneys at law. I mean, it's wonderful. So
yes.
That's really the including myself, who at least you can now get into anything political.
Yeah.
That we can get the political leaders involved with it, and all of them are.
Yes.
I know that Mayor Hicks Hudson, when I said something to her about Promise House, she pointed her finger at me and she says, "You better not mess it up either." So, I think I was directed at all of us. No, to the mayor, it's gonna go.
Yes.
I really feel excited about it.
We're excited, especially about the conversations that it's having and what it's been available. What Promise House Project has brought up in conversations within city leadership, county leadership, about how I think the biggest message that we've had has been that we're mission above title people, and that we can piss and moan about who dropped what ball, when and where, or we can decide to stop pissing and moaning, pick up the ball, and create a new plan. Because we can't fix what's happened or who did what, etc. It doesn't serve anybody that this is the way it's always been done. So what we've tried to do, and I think that we are doing, is show people what visionary leadership is about. And I'm not saying we're really per se visionaries, but any person who doesn't agree with this is how it's always been done, in my book, is a visionary, because most of the world runs on this is how it's always been done.
Well, I was at a dinner the other afternoon last week, and two of the juvenile court judges were there, and I was discussing Promise House, and they were all in favor of it. I know Judge Zimmerman was very much in favor of it, and Lori Olander.
Yes.
They just loved the project, and they thought it was great. And I haven't ran into any elected official that has been negative concerning the project. All three of the county commissioners they just love it.
Yes.
And it's going to really be exciting when the ribbon is cut.
Yes, very exciting. I'm not even really excited about all the press and the fanfare. I'm just excited about warm beds being available and hot meals being available.
Open the door up.
Yeah.
And let the sun shine in.
Yes.
Well, I told you that I bid on a piece of paperwork at the Democratic dinner that I attended about 3 months ago. Matter of fact, it was the Christmas holiday program. And I received the original, well, not one of the originals, of the Jim Overfeld case that was adjudicated last year.
Uh-huh.
Last year 2015 was a fantastic year.
For yes and no, but yeah.
That's something when you said that, I wanted to ask you, because you and I have talked about this before, and maybe you could tell our listeners, why in the LGBT community is the T silent?
Because for me, I I didn't plan to talk about this because it has nothing to do with Promise House. But it has a lot to do with people are uncomfortable sometimes about trans people. People sometimes also within any subset of cultured communities, when somebody else is within your community trying to fight for different rights or the same rights, there seems to be a contention of us and them. And a lot of people point to the difference between sexual orientation and gender identity as being two different things, but they're not sometimes for some people. Some people they're completely different things. Some people they're totally intersectional. But it doesn't matter because the whole effing point is that if we can't show a united front as a community that is LGBT, how do we expect anybody to take us seriously?
Well, that's why I wanted to bring this up, because basically you very well could have maybe half a dozen transgender children at the Promise House.
Yeah, like we're not serving children, we're serving youth,
right?
Which is 14 to 24. But it's it's very likely, yes. But then that's the problem, is that there's this huge gray area around trans people that has directly been perpetuated by usually gay and lesbian people who have chosen throughout the years to throw us under every bus that they could to
That's
further
sad.
their own agenda.
That's sad. But getting more into Promise House, how are the grants coming?
The grants are coming okay. It's all about, that's what really the big point of the Youth Empowerment and Engagement Coalition is all about, is that proving the need so that we can write, really well written grant proposals. But it's also, we're not looking to per se have older funding or renewals in funding. We're trying to bring brand new funders who've never funded grant monies into Northwest Ohio before, or it's been a while since they have, like Victims of Crime Administration for direct service.
Have you approached HUD on this at all?
A little bit, yes. A lot of, especially for performance metrics, etc. But it's all about, we're at the stage where we're just getting to the meat and potatoes of like data collection, a strategic plan as a community. And so we're at the proving point for many organizations that are involved in the coalition. So,
well, you mentioned corporations. One of the biggest corporations here in Toledo is the Toledo Public Schools, yes. TPS, and I know that they're on board.
Yes, we are partnered with TPS to do prevention advocacy. We're helping with their cultural competency trainings of their staff. We're working on a self-reporting mechanism for students on their website to report in real time that they're experiencing a need, like if they're hungry, or so I slept on a stranger's couch last night. I'm 14, like things like that. So it's easier for maybe if there's a barrier of people being afraid of stigma, or, I'm not going to talk to this adult that I don't know, etc., that it would be a way for them to say, hey, I need some help. You can get over, like, maybe if they're shy about it or whatever, to get the help that they need. And then they're also sharing data with us into the coalition about the need that they are aware of, because there's a big difference between TPS's data and the homeless management intake system's data.
Are you going to branch out to the other school systems?
Yes.
Toledo?
I'm only one woman.
Pardon me?
I'm only one woman. So it's slow, but I'm already a year and a half ahead of my strategic plan in terms of our coalition building efforts.
That's better than falling behind the power curve.
Right. And so we have been moving full steam ahead, having these conversations and, creating partnerships and talking, yes, about who's going to get what funding. But it's more about, so how can we make your mission and my mission work for this mission? Which is to make sure that no young people have to choose to perform an act of sex to find a bed space. That no young person should have to be threatened by being recruited for human trafficking, and that no young person should ever be unhoused.
I really am happy that you brought that up, because when I talked to Teresa Fetter, she was ecstatic.
Yes.
She is just ecstatic about that, because thank the Lord for her and her workings down in Columbus, that human trafficking is a no-no here in Ohio.
Oh, well, she's pivotal. Don't get me wrong. I love Teresa Fetter, and she's done great work. But it's all Celia Williamson and the work of the Lucas County Human Trafficking Coalition,
right,
who have done all the work. She's just the politician who was able to make really great connections, and be a speaking voice and force to be reckoned with. But I know Celia and all of the people, so we have to give them credit, because they're the ones that, forego for many years having a life and focused on helping people who are victims of human trafficking.
Well, in the near future, I'm hoping to have Teresa on the program so that she can elaborate on what the bill was all about, and, and what happened on that. And it's just a really exciting thing that we're living in this age where everybody now is finally being accepted, and that's the main thing. I mean,
I don't really think, and I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but like it's not. We don't live in an age where everyone's finally being accepted. We're seeing more and more hate bills, more and more anti-LGBT bills. With Trump, running for president, I've lost a bunch of friends that I didn't realize they were secretly racist, xenophobic pieces of crap. So it's one of those things where, like, we have a better social conscience, but oppression just moves around. It never goes away.
Well, like I heard somebody the other day make the comment in a political meeting that the racism against blacks will stop when the woman becomes president.
Oh, that's not true, America.
I know. I hear you. I mean, I thought we buried the N-word 4 or 5 years ago, but
I don't know where you ever thought that.
Well, I was up in Detroit when we carried it around in a casket, because I was with the former president of the NAACP here in Toledo, Lilian Moore, and we were up in Detroit, and I said, maybe this will cease. She said, not in our lifetime.
Not in many lifetimes. Racism is alive and well.
It's sad, too. I mean,
it's disgusting.
People are people, but we're all progressives. We're liberals, and that's why you're on the program.
Well, of course. I think that all people matter. Black lives matter. Don't get me effing wrong. Black lives matter. But I think that all people, I don't have a reason to there's nothing anybody could ever be or do or believe that could preclude me from knowing that they're deserving of dignity and equal rights.
We were all born equal. We're all under one God.
Right. Well, if you believe in
indivisible with justice and liberty for all.
Well, yeah. If you believe in God, God's only in the Pledge of Allegiance because of Republicans. Remember that.
Well, like I always tell people, that the Republican Party of today isn't your mother and dad's Republican Party.
Oh no.
I mean, Dwight Eisenhower, General Eisenhower, would be considered a rambling liberal. If
Yeah.
even Goldwater would be considered a liberal in today's Republican Party.
Yeah.
Well,
But we're hoping that hopefully these conversations, you know, don't preclude, but lead into. We really need some Republican leadership in terms of fighting youth homelessness. You know, they need to reach across the aisle and say that, you know, regardless of you being conservative or me being, you know, liberal or whatever, young people don't choose to be in this world. So let's make sure that they're not hungry and that they're housed. I mean, that would just be pivotal. Like, it would be a game changer if, you know, there were more Republicans that reached across the aisle and said, hey, let's fix this together.
Together we stand, and divided we fall.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100% on that. And that's why I'm involved in politics, to try to change the system, to bring us more, even to the center would be better than where some of these folks are now.
Yeah.
Trying to hold up a man who's highly well qualified for the Supreme Court is just ludicrous.
Yeah. So, any final questions, Mike, about Promise House?
No, but I think you how much time? I mean, what do we have?
26.
26 minutes?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's good.
Okay.
I think we should leave it. What do you think? Do you have anything else?
Make sure that you visit our Facebook at the Promise House Project and visit our website at phptoledo.org
You said that already. Okay.
for volunteer opportunities, as well as to hear about what's going on. There's a news page, there's a blog coming. There's going to be a community newsletter that you can download through the website, etc. Exciting things are happening, and we can't do it without the community.